Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out 2-sentence horror. Story 1. The man who ran into and killed my husband while jogging on the side of the roadside in relief after he was deemed not at fault. I knew that hiding his visibility vests would eventually pay off. Story 2. It's been 1 month since I started taking my medications. Yet the eyes I watch closely at night continue to stare back. Story 3. In the last year 3 out of 5 of my children have died a slow and painful death, and my wife believes it's the work of the devil. I keep reassure her that it's all part of God's plan, but since he doesn't speak to her, she just hasn't got the faith that I do. Story 4. I've always been a bit dreamy as a kid, so my parents taught me how to reality check and therefore always know whether I was awake or dreaming. But as I weep, my teeth chattering with terror as I stare up at the looming monster approaching me, I keep counting my fingers and I still have the correct amount. Story 5. I regretted my decision to camp alone in a remote forest as I heard the unsettling laugh of a child echoing through the night. Trembling with fear, I unzipped the tent, only to find in front of me a fox, happily playing with the strings of my backpack. Story 6. Beasts of the night ruled the forest. Now, however, I am the last one left, and I can see the light of the humans' torches getting nearer. Story 7. SCP-237 Nails of Iron to imprison the demon. The process of filtering the iron out from the blood of the Scaraphist has been long and arduous. Story 8. My wife has been suffering from sleep paralysis ever since she was a kid, so whenever she has an attack I always try to comfort her by turning the lights on and helping with her breathing. So when this time I felt a sharp pain in my left arm while pressing the switch, I couldn't help but think that life sometimes has the funniest timing. Story 9. As I lit my cigarette I heard a man in the dim alleyway ask for one. My heart sank when I saw his feet off the ground only to be a few inches in the air. Story 10. You know your antidepressants don't mix well with alcohol, right? I scolded. To my horror, her final word before slipping into a coma were, "That's why I drank." Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 11. My wife called me ask why our toddler wasn't in childcare when she went to pick him up. What does she mean she wasn't the one who dropped him off this morning? Story 12. Ever since the repayment of student loans has been issued, my husband has been adamant about sticking to a strict and tight budget. I can only pray he will forgive me as I scrounge for the last quarter to pay for my insulin. Story 13. After I was cremated I regretted being so horrible to my child when I was alive. They decided to keep some of my ashes, and I can't pass to the afterlife until after all of my ashes have been thrown away. Story 14. DEC-24 Dear Santa Claus, sorry about the cookies, my mummy ate them all. DEC-25 Dear Diary, today I saw Santa eat mummy, he told me to be quiet or I'll be on the naughty list. Story 15. I was excited to take home my new piano and start playing music for my son. Story 16. And now the strangest creature we found on this planet, a human. I was rolled into a room filled by alien creatures and a floor covered with animal corpses. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 17. Daddy, who is that pale lady next to you? Horrified, I looked to the side wondering if the father could see me too. Story 18. I could barely look away, she was off the charts. As I stared in shock at the Geiger counter, I wondered how I'd break this news to her. Story 19. Keep the fire toasty and never let it burn down, my mother always told me. It wasn't until after her death, and I left the cottage behind, that I found out the reason. Story 20. Serial killer identified. I gasped in shock when the news anchor revealed they'd finally identified the town's serial killer. The police then barged in as I looked at all the bloody body parts I'd just severed. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 21. I returned home for Thanksgiving after not seeing my family all year. Mum's still asleep on the now discolored couch, just where I left her. Story 22. I looked around the abandoned beach, then at my father and asked, "Can we eat, Dad?" He looked around at the plain rubble, then at the dead bodies, then turned to me and said, "We can eat, sure." Story 23. Ever since the brain operation I lost all my memories, so as a precaution I wrote notes to myself and put them every in my home. A note that always confused me was the one hanging on the fridge: "Always walk quietly backwards if you need to go to the bathroom at night." Story 24. The Little Red Riding Hood's mother always told her to beware of the big bad wolf whenever she visited her grandmother. As the little girl arrived at the cabin, she sighed in relief as she saw that her grandma looked the same as always, bearded, masculine, and about her mother's age. Story 25. When I washed up from the wreck, I was glad I'd kept hold of my medical kit. No food, but I don't really need my left leg. Story 26. DEC-23. As he finished the bilateral enucleation on Melissa Rogers, the surgeon silently congratulated himself on another job well done. Then he double-checked the chart and realized he'd been working on Gracie Matthews. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 27. I smile and sit in front of my cake. The song Happy Birthday rang out around me and made me forget about the hissing sound as I flick the lighter. Story 28. In most professions, a pin-sized hole in one's helmet is no big deal. Not long after the space station's airlock closed behind me did I notice the hole, and my face shield shattered. Story 29. I was looking through the window of my first flight. Seconds later, the window is gone. Story 30. Where did they all go? Asked my sister as we ambled through the abandoned lands of ruined palaces and fallen countries. Where had they gone indeed, I thought, as she, like the others, vanished before me in this empty mind of once lively childhood fantasies and dreams. Story 31. When our most recent heatwave never went away, everyone began to get some form of skin cancer. Since the hospital were full, the poor were forced to dig the cancer out themselves, often taking Dollar Tree kitchen knives to perform the surgery. Story 32. When you die, you automatically know where your body is at all times. But it still surprised me when I felt it in 103 locations. Story 33. DEC-23. I doubled over in agony as I coughed up blood. The second Mall Santa must have had pins in his legs. Story 34. I lit the lighthouse's beacon, knowing that the legend says that whoever lights the beacon will be trapped inside with all the evils that have plagued man as long as it stays lit, but the world would finally be at peace. Though the pain and torture that ensued inside the lighthouse was unimaginable, I refused to let those monsters extinguish the beacon and free themselves. Story 35. Recently, several photos from Venice surface from Venera 9 have been declassified by Russia. They all show several people screaming and waving at the probe for help. Story 36. Ever since the bite, I fear water. But if I don't swim soon, the ship will be over the horizon. Story 37. It's been 25 years since I was last in this room. All the same decorations are up, the toys are mostly still here, and my Tamagotchi is still dead, of course. Luckily my parents had gotten rid of that horrendous toy that they got me so long ago. Uniluledu. Story 38. As I walked across the road, I saw a big pile of newspaper floating in the river beside me, so I went to check it out. Not only that, but when I unwrapped the newspaper, it had revealed to be a baby covered in blood. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 39. I told my parents many times that there are monsters in my room. They got what they deserved, for not trusting their own son. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 40. On December 31, 1999, I tucked my young children into bed after giving them one last drink to celebrate the new millennium. My youngest was worried he'd have an accident drinking so much right before bed, but with everything I knew was about to happen, I wasn't worried about having to do laundry ever again. Story 41. Watching my stepchild die from multiple gunshot wounds, I break down the rifle and put it back in its case before driving off and howling with joyous laughter. Story 42. I've always had this compulsive habit of organizing symmetrically everything that was around me. It was such a shame when my father came back from war with just one of his arms. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 43. The asteroid storm wiped out half of all life on Earth and turned the surface into an uninhabitable wasteland. And yet, I still have to go to work in the morning. Story 44. As I felt my body refill with life once more, I knew the machine would get the pleasure of my torture once again. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 45. The deal was $3 grand for one kidney, not for all my organs, screamed the man fastened to the operating table. That's before we knew you were type O negative, shrugged the surgeon as he sedated his patient. Story 46. People always praise me for how calm my baby girl is. We didn't notice it until she hit her head on the door frame and we didn't hear a peep. Story 47. I let my Garloid sleep in my bed, not knowing what would come next. To my horror, I saw it sucking the blood from my arm the moment I awoke, and knew my fate was sealed. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 48. While on top of him, a hotel maid accidentally killed her lover via erotic asphyxiation. She cut off his dick and walked around with it inside her for several days before getting arrested. Story 49. Today, as I was miming the old trapped in a box trick for my street crowd and pressing up on the ceiling pressed back. All I hear now is the increasing clink of loose change and laughter mixed with my silent screams as the vast, invisible ceiling just keeps pressing lower and lower. Story 50. A tear streamed down my face as the cruise ship left the bay. Please don't leave me here, I whispered in futile when I notice a skull in the sand, mere inches from my feet. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.